You're off 3 minutes.
Good evening and welcome to tonight's Common Council meeting for Tuesday, March 12th, 2019. Clerk will call the roll, please.
Gonzalez, Hanson, Sidlacek,
Present.
Gilson, Hildebrandt,
Here.
Wilson,
Here.
Fernsler, Nelson.
Here.
Let the record show we have a quorum. Next is a pledge. Please stand. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item on the agenda is the approval of the consent agenda. The chair will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve. Second, Alden Nelson.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, clerk will call the roll, please.
Nelson,
Yes.
Hildebrandt,
Yes.
Fernsler,
Yes.
Wilson,
Yes.
Sidlacek.
Yes.
Gilson.
Motion carried, thank you. Item 4, this is where we have the audience sign in to be recognized by the chair. This is where the audience gets to address us, and they do the talk and we do the listening. No one is signed in tonight. We do encourage the community to stop in and watch the council and ask questions. Moving on to item 5, no items were removed from the consent agenda. Moving on to item 6, ordinances. Ordinance A, number 1, an ordinance creating section 11-2-18 of the Code of Ordinances, City of Plymouth, Wisconsin, related to conduct and operators of parade units. I'll ask Chief Chowshek for a summary, please.
Earlier, late last year, 2018, we brought this information forward. We had a meeting shortly after January with the Public Safety Committee to create this ordinance, and part of that was during our homecoming parades, Christmas parades, during the parade route, we're noticing every year when they're dispensing candy off machinery, floats, whatever, they're not throwing it far enough. The kids are getting closer and closer to the equipment, so it's a safety issue. And also, we haven't had any close calls in Plymouth, but throughout the state, one last summer in Denmark, a child got run over. So we've been looking at this, creating this ordinance that the throw candy, you have to be off the equipment or float, those types of things. Last year, several of our units that sponsor parades have asked if we had an ordinance, so that was one of the other reasons we brought it forward. And also covering that ordinance is, it's also covering age of operators of different vehicles like a golf cart, farm implements, so we have some control of who's operating this equipment. When there's some of these tractors and this equipment, we want to make sure there's qualified individuals that are operating these so we don't create any problems. So that's a little bit of the background of the ordinance.
Good, thank you, Chief. The chair will entertain a motion so we can discuss.
I'll move that we approve ordinance number 1, creating related to conduct and operation of parade units. Second, Hildebrandt.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion?
So they can still distribute candy? but
They,
not-
they can, my understanding, Chief, is that they have to be walking alongside and not be on the parade float or apparatus, but as long as they walk,
Correct, as long as they're walking.
Beside it,
alongside and handling
they're allowed to do it.
Right.
Any other questions? Clerk will call the roll, please.
Fernsler,
Yes.
Sidlacek.
Yes.
Wilson,
Yes,
Gilson, Nelson.
Yes.
Hildebrandt.
Yes.
Motion carried, thank you. Item 6B, number 6, an ordinance repealing and recreating Schedule C of Section 10-1-47 of the Municipal Code of the City of Plymouth, Wisconsin, regarding no parking at any time. Director Austin?
This was also another item that was brought up at the Public Safety and Welfare Committee. So the majority of the ordinance, or that Schedule C, was just alphabetized for ease for the police and for my use. But it did add Appleton Street, so the first one, number 1, Appleton Street, west and east side. As you have the map in your packet, it is part of our truck route on East Clifford to Appleton Street and then to Prospect. And this request actually came from GTS, who has had issues with other, it's not their semis, but other semis were actually cutting through their parking lot and stuff that they were having issues with, because there are, if cars park on the west side of Appleton, some of those turn movements get very difficult for the semi. So that request actually came from GTS, and we're moving it forward.
Thank you.
Motion to approve ordinance number 6 as written.
Second, Alder Nelson.
We have a first and a second to approve the creation of the new ordinance, section, or Schedule C of section 10-1-47 as written. Any further discussion? Clerk will call the roll, please.
Hildebrand,
Yes.
Nelson.
Yes.
Wilson,
Yes.
Bernsler.
Yes.
Gilson. Sedlacek.
Yes.
Motion carried, thank you. Item 7, resolution 7A, resolution number 5, a resolution establishing a policy to special assess for certain costs associated with the improvement of public alleys in the city of Plymouth. And I'll ask Administrator Yurgis for opening comment.
Sure, this item was also from last year in 2018 and talked about with the Public Works and Utilities Committee. In your packet, there's a map that kind of shows some of the public alleys that exist throughout the city of Plymouth. Currently, we do not do pavement ratings on those alleys, and we also do not have alleys plugged into our 10-year capital improvement plan. And some of the questions that staff had for the committee and the council was, should we be providing pavement ratings? Should we be incorporating it into our 10-year capital improvement plan? What would be a determining factor as to whether a project should be part of our plan? And or should the city prioritize alleys over street projects? And it's hard enough to fund street projects the way it is. So after a number of discussions, the committee eventually recommended a resolution that upon request of property owners, where they would have property interests that constitute more than 50% of the lineal feet of and abutting an alley, if a petition came forward, we would then program that into our 10-year capital improvement plan, and we would special assess for those improvements. Originally, the first draft of the resolution was 50% of property owners. That was changed to base it off of lineal feet because we didn't want someone that owns, let's say, 60% of the frontage be forced into paying for a project if 3 other neighbors said they wanted it. And so the resolution would really, and the petition would really be based on their interest of the frontage in terms of total lineal feet. So that change was made, I believe, that was recommended at Public Works and Utilities, and also part of something that Alderman Nelson brought up in terms of changing how it would be based on.
Thank you. The chair will entertain a motion so we can discuss.
Motion to approve resolution number 5.
Second, Wilson?
We have a first and a second. Any discussion? Clerk will call the roll, please.
Gilson. Nelson.
Yes.
Hildebrand.
Yes.
Bernsler.
Yes.
Sedlacek.
Yes.
Wilson.
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you. Item 8, committee reports and actions. The Housing Authority asked for the mayor to nominate and approve the nomination of Marcia Volbrick to serve a first term with the Housing Authority. That is correct. Volbrick will replace Mark Melcher effective March 29th, 2019. The chair will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the nomination of Marshall Bolbrecht to serve on the Housing Authority.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Item 9, new business. Approve the purchase of the DPW garage furnace from Four Seasons Comfort in the amount of $2,385. Funds to come from the contingency fund. Director Austin, please.
Yeah, and so this unit was actually already purchased due to the time that it failed. So I just want to kind of make that as the correction too, due to the urgency to get heat back in the part of the garage where the furnace failed. We did authorize them to go ahead with the work. And talking with Administrator Yurgis, we're requesting that it comes from the contingency funds.
Thank you.
Motion to approve the cost of $23.85 for Four Seasons Comfort for the furnace.
Second, Alder Nelson.
We have a first and a second. Any questions, discussion?
I'd like to make sure that we add that it's coming from the contingency fund.
Correct. Any other additions? Clerk will call the roll, please.
Wilson,
Yes.
Sedlacek,
Yes.
Bernsler, Hildebrandt,
Yes.
Gilson, Nelson.
Yes.
Motion carried, thank you. Item 9B, approve to purchase a 2019 F-350 Ford truck from Mike Burkhardt Ford in the amount of $31,766.50, as well as the plow package and Tommy lift gate from Kraus Snowplows in the amount of $10,950. Total truck purchase would be $42,716.50. Funds to come out of the capital improvement plan. Director Austin, please.
Yeah, so as part of the budget, last year we discussed the need to replace one of the utility, or it's a DPW, just pickup truck. The truck that will actually be traded in is the one that's currently at the golf course. We'll then in turn give one of our other pickup trucks back to the golf course, and that's kind of how the hand-me-down system works. So we are getting that does include the trade-in for that. I think it's $1,000 from Burkhardt, which was kind of generous. And so it does include the snow plow, and that'll be used for plowing some of our parking lots and alleyways, kind of the tighter spots. And then the Tommy lift gate is kind of an added thing. Currently, we do have a truck, and we will maintain with that truck, but I would say within a couple years, you'll see that as a replacement, the Tommy Gate lift truck. So now this would be a nice truck to get it on, and then when we go to replace the current Tommy Gate lift, we wouldn't need to do that.
Thank you. Chair will entertain a motion so we can discuss.
So move to approve the purchase of the 2019 F-350 Ford truck and plow and Tommy lift gate.
Second, Wilson.
I would add to that for the total of $42,716.50. Any further discussion? Clerk will call the roll, please.
Gilson, Nelson.
Yes.
Hildebrandt,
Yes.
Bernsler,
Yes.
Sedlacek,
Yes.
Wilson.
Yes.
Motion carried, thank you. Item 9C, approve farmland agreement, industrial parkland. Administrator Yurgis, please for a summary.
Yeah, the template is based on other leases that we have with other farmers, but the reason why for this one is the city purchased that 25-acre parcel in the East Side Industrial Park, and that lease kind of, with the PIDC, kind of extended to us for that 1 year, but now we're going into that second year where the city owns that parcel, and so we need to enter into a new agreement. I would prefer just to keep things with the current farmer. And they understand that if we would sell the property that, you know, it would be developed. So they understand that, but just to kind of follow our similar templates that we've already had, it would be a good idea to have something in writing with them.
Thank you. The chair will entertain a motion so we can discuss.
Motion to approve farmland agreement, industrial parkland.
Second, Alder Nelson.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion?
Yes.
Alderman
How much,
Hildebrand.
how much tillable acres is that? Do you know?
I don't know off the top of my head. And I know on a per acre basis, the 950 is probably a little light.
Pretty low.
On the flip side is they've been doing it on that piece of property for some time. I'd hate to just kind of say, oh, we're not, on short notice, we're not going to be working with you in 2019. The other part of it is I know that staff is working on a proposal that'll come forward. We are looking at potentially having a wetland delineation on that property, yet utilizing TIF number 4 funds. So that's something we're looking at potentially doing in 2019 yet. In the future, we could always do a more formal bid process. But at the same time, if nobody farms it, just the weeds and that sort of thing. So it is to our benefit to have someone consistently.
The low end is about
farm it.
$150 an acre now,
Yep.
and the high end can be as high as $300 an
Yeah.
acre.
Yeah.
But even giving it to them at a low end, versus just.
And this is what the PIDC had been getting
Yeah, I know.
for that dollar amount, so that's why at this point,
15 to 20 acres, it says here in the lease.
15 to 20.
yeah. And that's taking language from the old lease agreement that
And
the
that varies
PIDC had.
between wet and dry season.
Actually, if they, contract, it's what it is.
Yeah, yeah.
Farmland is farmland, they contract for 10 acres of tillable, or 15 or 20 acres of tillable. At the lower end, it'd be $150 an acre.
Yep.
I just didn't understand why it was at 950, which seemed to me to be very.
Yeah, the 950 is a carryover from the PIDC, and there is no indication from either the PIDC or the city that we would be looking for other farmers. Certainly, there's been a relationship there.
Is he a cash crop?
Yes.
Yes,
Then maybe we should let him know maybe that he's.
in the
In
future,
the future,
correct.
bring it back up to at least the low end.
Yep.
Any other comments or questions? Clerk will call the roll, please.
Wilson,
Yes?
Sedlacek.
Yes.
Fernsler.
Yes.
Hildebrand.
Yes.
Nelson.
Yes.
Gilson.
Motion carried, thank you. Item 9D, award contract for the Hine Avenue, Bonnie Court, Mill Street, and Meyer Park parking lot projects to DeGroat Incorporated in the amount of $651,846.21. Director Austin, please.
Yeah, so we did go out for a bid. We lumped all the roadway and paving projects into one contract, hoping to receive more bids. Unfortunately, it was kind of a strange outcome. We only received one bidder. Kapoor did contact other utility companies on why, and they were, like Utah and Peterson, they said they were already, didn't fit into their schedule. So I'm assuming that was similar to all the other utility companies. As far as paving, really, Northeast is still the sub to pave, and they'd be the asphalt sub regardless of kind of whoever would do the underground work. So, I guess it's up to you guys if we want to try to rebid or go for more bids, but due to what we were hearing from the other contractors out there, I don't know if we would get more bidders, if we would re-advertise. But it does fall within our allotted budget. I did break out kind of the funding sources because there is multiple projects. So overall, it does fall within our allotted budget. But I did mention the Meyer Park portion was more than what we had anticipated. But it does fall within the entire improvements to Meyer Park, and we do have adequate funds in there to absorb the difference as well.
Thank you.
Motion
Chair will
to,
entertain a motion.
motion to approve the
Contract award.
contract award for $472,238.65 from city funds and $352,000 from utility funds for the projects as listed.
Those are the most capital.
Yeah, so those are actually the budget amounts allocated. The
Oh,
actual
we
full,
wanna approve
is
the-
the agenda for 651.
Okay, I'm sorry.
84621, and that'll be broken down city and utility based on the line item costs.
Okay, that's-
But overall, the project is within our budget, so together, the 472, and you add the 352, those two costs, or those two revenue items together is what we allocated for the overall project.
Right.
So although we got one bid, it is within our budget amount, and then also, as Director Austin mentioned, for the asphalt portion, since the state eliminated the option of getting asphalt through Sheboygan County, Northeast Asphalt is the only game in town, so, on that portion.
So the motion
So
would
it is
then be
651.
for
Yeah,
651,
846,
84621, correct. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Mr. Mayor.
We have a first and a second, any discussion?
Mr. Mayor.
Alderman Sedlacek.
So, this, I just want to ask about the Hine and Body Court and Mill Street. Really, it's the Hine, because that's the only sewer, right, on Hine?
No, so both Bonnie Court and Hine Avenue have sewer work, and in both those cases, on both streets,
And-
the majority of the work is lining.
But, and so I just want to ask for the amount of money that was budgeted, that budget amount, was that budget amount based on lining or, lining the sewer?
Yes.
Or did you have that in the budget?
Yeah, so, we talked a little bit about this at the Public Works and Utilities Committee meeting, but when we put the budget together, that's what I always refer to as more of a planning level estimate. So what happens is in terms of, we looked at the project, we thought that maybe it would be a sewer main replacement project, and so from a very high level, planning level cost estimate, that's what we based the budget
Budget,
off of,
okay.
right? Well, then, after the budget gets approved, or when we select an engineering services, Kapoor looks at it from an engineering perspective. They meet with staff, Director Austin, myself, and staff, and based on the overall needs of the project, after going through some engineering analysis, it's then determined how the bid package is actually put together, and then that is publicly bid, and then based on the low qualified bidder, that's what we award. So in this case, Hine Avenue, we didn't know at the time that the engineer would recommend that we could line it. But I will point out that at the bottom of that memo, you'll see that, to line the sewer main, it's $28.89 per linear foot. For full main replacement, it's $86.02 per linear foot. So it's almost 200% more to do a full sewer main replacement compared to lining. So obviously, that's a significant cost difference. And, based on the engineering design and how the bid package was put together, it was bid out as a sewer lining project.
Right, so I'm just wondering, at Hine and Bonnie Court, they come in way below than the budgeted amount, because we're doing a lot more lining?
Correct, Austin. I think Hine Avenue does. Do you know about Bonnie Court off the top of your head?
I don't, the utility portion, for both projects together ends up being $211,844.61.
And the
And
budget?
the budget was $352.
Okay, so,
Yep.
right, okay,
Yeah.
all right, thank you.
Correct.
Any other questions? Clerk will call the roll, please.
Ernstler. Wilson.
Yes.
Nelson.
Yes.
Sedlacek.
Yes.
Bilson. Yes. Hildebrand.
Yes.
Motion carried, thank you. Item 10, Chair will entertain a motion to go into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 19.85, paren 1, paren G, conferring with legal counsel for the government body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is or is likely to become involved regarding claim from CSI Inc.
Okay.
So moved to go into closed session.
Second, Wilson?
We have a first and a second. Any discussion? Clerk will call the roll for closed session.
Sedlacek? Nelson?
Yes.
Hildebrand?
Yes.
Birnsler? Wilson?
Yes.
Gilson? Yes. Sedlacek?
Yes.
Motion carried. Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
We have a first and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We stand adjourned.